I'm your host, Annie Bowles, and this is News du Jour. Hey you guys, and welcome back to the News du Jour. Happy Thursday. I wanted to issue a quick reminder that tomorrow's episode will be broadcasted from a hotel room in California. So if the audio quality isn't up to its usual, that will be why. Anyway, I wanted to start off with a Hurricane Ian update for you guys. So since our episode yesterday has aired, Hurricane Ian got worse. A lot worse. Some people are even saying the storm of our lifetimes. It was upgraded from a Category 3 to a Category 5, and it knocked the power out of the entire island of Cuba. It is said that Governor Ron DeSantis and President Biden, who are pretty much at odds politically, opposite ends of the spectrum, are working together really well, though, to keep everyone safe in Florida. As of the time I'm recording this, over 8,000 households are already without power in Florida. Let's hope that everyone is stocked up on supplies and shelters in place or evacuates. Stay safe, everyone. And next up for today, the Virginia school walkout. So in Arlington, Virginia, over 1,000 students walked out of both middle and high schools yesterday. Why? In an effort to defend transgender youth. You see, the state of Virginia just recently rolled back some protections that they had in place for transgender youth. The rules laid out that students must use restrooms and pronouns based on official school records. They also can only play on sports teams based on their gender assigned at birth. This means that parents who may not agree with their child's or teenager's decision to transition can effectively force them to abide by their gender assigned at birth. Students are telling news outlets that they want their classmates to be themselves, whoever that might be. One 16-year-old student told reporters, quote, "Revoking now would be like dialing back the clock. It would be like telling students, we don't really care. You're not really who you know yourself to be." End quote. These protests were completely student-led, with more than 100 different schools participating. They had speakers who talked about their mental health struggles due to being transgender. Right now, the policy has actually a public comment period online for about a month. So what the student leaders did was they passed out cards with QR codes that kids could use to scan and leave a comment asking Virginia leadership not to reverse. They had already received over 16,000 comments when I am writing this. Ultimately, the superintendent of public instruction can make changes to the final draft up to when he decides to sign it. So the students are hoping that their comments may cause them to reconsider. This change in Virginia obviously comes on the heels of similar decisions in the state of Florida and 18 other states across the country who ban transgender athletes. Everyone deserves to define themselves however they choose. If you're not free to be yourself, then what does freedom even mean? And next step for today, electoral count overhaul passes with Republican backing. In light of the January 6th committee's work wrapping up, legislators are looking to tighten the parameters around presidential elections and potentially clarifying some language. You see, the reason January 6th specifically was the date of the riots was because Mike Pence was headed to Congress to symbolically count the electoral votes. This whole thing is supposed to be a formality of sorts, some political grandstanding. But Trump seemed to think that this was some type of window of opportunity to sway things his way. After the votes had been cast, the election had been called. He created these entire teams of fake electors in states that he had already lost, who he planned to call upon to vote. He wanted, as it is my understanding that this was the plan, Mike Pence to then present those fake votes for counting rather than the real ones from the actual Electoral College. After consulting with several legal experts, staunchly conservative ones, I might add, Mike Pence knew that there was absolutely no way to do this. In fact, they informed him that this would absolutely be illegal, unconstitutional, and potentially call into question our whole election system and therefore our democracy and way of conducting government. These lawyers put this in writing for Mike Pence too, so that he could take their expert opinions to President Trump and show him that he could not do what he was being asked to do. And Mike Pence did that at no avail. Trump was still calling on Pence to do this very illegal thing. And in defense of our democracy, our government, and our way of life, Mike Pence stood up against Trump and, due to the angry mob outside, genuinely risked his life to do so. So, flash forward to now, after looking at all of the facts of that day, and with another presidential election just 2 short years away, our nation's leadership has decided to clarify what that moment of counting the electoral votes in Congress is really all about. Now, they have legislation laying this out. The vice president's counting of the electoral votes is strictly ceremonial. The end. As Mitch McConnell put it, and again, he's a prominent Republican, quote, "This bill is common sense," end quote. Many Republicans have come out in support of this bill because at the end of the day, no one wants any political party thinking that they could overthrow the will of the people. This ties up loose ends and loopholes left by the January 6th attacks. And hopefully, this bill could help the country move forward. And that is the news du jour. Today, I wanted to leave you guys with the quote, "The cynics may have the loudest voices, but I promise you, they will accomplish the least." If you enjoyed this episode, please consider becoming a patron of our podcast. For $7.99 a month, you can unlock tons of perks like breaking news text messages so that you're never out of the loop. Tons of bonus episodes are already up there ready for you to binge, and a discussion board full of networking opportunities and much more. Go to www.patreon.com/sugarfree media today to become a patron. This is the best way to support our show. Our patrons make News du Jour possible. But a couple other ways to support our podcast are rate and review on whatever podcast platform you use to listen, share on your social media, you have influence, tell your friends, family, and colleagues that you love News du Jour and why you listen. You can also follow us on social media under sugarfreemedia.co on Instagram, just sugarfreemedia, all one word, on TikTok, and sugarfree_media on Twitter. We also have a weekend newsletter called Dreamers Digest that's full of dreamy content recommendations for your weekend and a life update from yours truly. Sign up today on our website, www.sugarfreemedia.co. Our music is by Joey Lavoie and Nicholas Foster. Our cover art is by Hannah Pierce Photography. Our Sugar Free Media logo is by Catherine Jezik Designs. Any twinkling or little footsteps you might hear in the background are by my dog, Rhett. He's a rescue pup and always records with me. We appreciate you listening and look forward to telling you about the news again next time on News du Jour. Broadcasting from Oklahoma.